Xgrowth has helped B2B tech companies design campaigns that open doors in their strategic target accounts, roll out targeted ABM programs, scale ABM programs, and select the right tool and tech stack for a successful ABM initiative. These are all things Xgrowth has helped their clients with. If you're interested to learn how Xgrowth can help your firm's ABM program, check out Xgrowth at xgrowth.com.au. That's xgrowth.com.au and chat with the APAC ABM agency.
What's up, marketers, and welcome to another episode of the Growth Colony podcast. I'm Liza from Xgrowth to tell you that each episode we bring in B2B leaders to chat about how you can achieve those everyday wins in the marketing world. Whether you're new to the B2B game, working at a leadership level, or even just showing some interest, we know you'll love the episode. So grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. I'm Shaheen Hoda from Xgrowth, and I'm talking to Scott Albro, co-founder and CEO at Goldie today, about how AI can change the B2B landscape, what should B2B sales reps and marketers keep a close eye on, and what is the best way to incorporate AI in what you do. On that note, let's dive in. Scott, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Shaheen. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I want to jump in and talk about where we are with AI and how does the landscape look like. One of the things that in the past conversation you've talked about is the AI hype cycle. Can you give us a little bit of an idea, in your opinion, where we are with AI as a vertical, as a sector, in your opinion?
Yeah, happy to actually. So I think most people who are listening are familiar with Gartner, the research and advisory firm. And I think, Gartner does a lot of different things, but one of the more powerful things they do is they publish these things that they call hype cycles for different technologies. And the way to think about a hype cycle is we go through 4 different phases, if you will, in a hype cycle. So actually, before you even get to those phases, there's this thing that Gartner calls the innovation trigger, which you can kind of think of as like, the Cambrian explosion of a new technology, like a new technology emerges, like AI, for example. And then the Gartner hype cycle basically takes you through these 4 phases, and I'll try and show them on the screen with my finger, but basically, you go through this first phase, which is called the peak of inflated expectations. And so that's like there are very high expectations for this new technology. A lot of people are really excited about it. There's just kind of a lot of hype around the new technology. And so that goes up like this. And then the second phase, we go through this thing that we call the trough of disillusionment, which is a great, whoever coined that phrase deserves some literary award, because that's really good. So anyway, you go up and then you go down into the trough of disillusionment, and then you go through this thing called the slope of enlightenment. And the slope of enlightenment is kind of this, this gradual growth that happens over some period of time, and it's not like the peak of inflated expectations. It's very gradual growth and adoption. And then finally we get to the plateau of productivity, where the technology is now mature and people are using it on a daily basis, right? Like an example of something that's in the plateau of productivity in the world of sales and marketing technology is something like your CRM or marketing automation or something like that. And so AI is obviously not at the plateau of productivity. It's not even at the slope of enlightenment yet. I feel like we've gone through this really compressed sort of rapid fire first phase around the peak of inflated expectations. And a lot of that has to do with how quickly ChatGPT was adopted. Everyone all of a sudden it's easy to forget this, but earlier this year, within the span of, call it 30 to 60 days, everyone knew what ChatGPT was. You were experimenting with it. Everyone was using it. And so in a way, that sort of feels like the top, right, if you will, and the peak, the true peak of inflated expectations. Now it feels like we're starting to come down the other side into the trough of disillusionment. And I think there are a few things that are driving that, and some of them are very specific to B2B sales and marketing. But the primary thing is I think a lot of people are realizing that GPT and other large language models that that sort of dominate the generative AI space now, a lot of people are realizing they still make mistakes. They're not good at generating really original insights or content or thought. And I think they're realizing that some of these things are just toys, right? They're not ready for like mission critical adoption yet. And so I think we're still close to the top, but we're sort of sliding down the other side now. And we've got a lot of work to do as an industry to, get us onto that slope of enlightenment, if you will, where, we get out of the trough of disillusionment. And we can talk about what some of that work is. But, one of the things I keep telling our customers and folks in the industry is like, we have work to do to make sure that these large language models and generative AI aren't just toys, that they can actually be used for mission critical applications and use cases in a B2B setting. And let me just give you one example of this. So you can ask Chat GPT, doesn't matter whether you use Chat GPT or a different version. You can ask GPT a question, like let's say you're a salesperson and you're prospecting into a mid-sized publicly traded enterprise, and you want to know who the CEO of that company is. And you ask GPT, who is the CEO of company XYZ? There's a non-statistically insignificant, well, that was a double negative. There's a reasonable probability that GPT will get the answer to that question wrong. Now, if you're writing like a high school essay and you're sort of cheating by using GPT, maybe that's okay, right? Or maybe that's not okay. In a B2B setting, if you get that wrong, that's a real problem. And so that's an example of something that's a toy as opposed to like a mission critical application that B2B professionals can really depend upon. And that's a simple, straightforward example. There are more complex examples out there than that one.
That's fantastic. And I think that's such a great point. You're right. ChatGPT became this savior of anything that you do. And it was going to replace everything, and our jobs are going to be replaced. And that was the conversation 6 months ago, right? Of like, how is it going to replace us? And then it's barely mentioned now in 6 months down the line. And I think it was the case with a lot of things, that, just like you said, blockchain or Clubhouse or anything of that sort that kind of went through that very fast phase. Well, it's really interesting to kind of hear your thoughts on this, because obviously a lot of people who are in the AI space are in the other field where it's like, no, this is going to be great. It's changing everything. It's completely like you could do everything with it. And you're taking the approach that we've got to be a little bit more cautious. We've got to be a little bit more careful in terms of how we use it. What are the go-to-market motion or areas that you think AI can be extremely useful? Maybe now, or maybe in the very near future.
Yeah. So the way that I think of the way I tend to think about this is I start with this kind of model of like, what are the things that AI is either already good at or should be good at? And what are the things that people are already good at, right? And I call these things that people are already good at uniquely human skills, right? That, yes, maybe we'll get to the singularity at some point in time, and there will be an AI that is capable of basically like exhibiting uniquely human skills just as well as a human does, right? We might get there at some point in time, but I suspect we're many years, if not decades, away from that. But that doesn't mean that AI isn't good at other things. And I think where AI can really benefit go-to-market teams is around these kind of more menial, mundane, administrative tasks that an AI should be good at. And let me just share an example that will help make this distinction. So imagine I have a sales call with a prospect, and I specifically have a discovery call with that prospect. And I'm on the call as the salesperson, and I've been trained to conduct discovery a certain way. And I ask questions, and the prospect responds to those questions and shares a bunch of useful, insightful information with me. At the end of that call, we hang up from that call. At the end of that call, there are a number of different things that salesperson is expected to do just as a matter of best practice in a sales organization. So one obvious thing they need to do is they need to update the CRM based on information that they receive from that buyer or prospect. Another thing they need to do is they need to follow up with that prospect, right? A lot of people call this the recap email, for example. Another thing that the salesperson needs to do is they need to make decisions about how they're going to interact with that prospect in the future to increase the odds of closing that deal. Like what moves are they going to make based on what they learned during the discovery call? There are probably other things that need to happen. Maybe you want to update your manager directly, things like that. But if we take those, sort of post-call activities that a salesperson needs to go execute on, they're quite time consuming, right? Like you think of the discovery calls, well, that took 60 minutes. You could imagine that those activities you need to follow up on now based on that call could actually take longer than 60 minutes. And so let's think about how AI can help in those different areas. So one thing the AI could do is absolutely update the CRM for me based on what the AI hears or reads on the transcript of that call. Maybe the AI could send me a message and say, hey, Scott, would you like to update the stage or the close date or the next step in the CRM based on anything you learned in the call? Maybe the AI could just do that automatically for me. So that's going to free up some time for me that I'd otherwise have to spend basically on like CRM hygiene, which is not necessarily a great use of a sales rep's time. Second thing I need to do is I need to send some type of recap email to that prospect that summarizes what we talked about, potential next steps, action items. Maybe I owe that person some content now. The AI can absolutely, I would say, draft that email for me, again, based on what it sees in the transcript or in my meeting notes or whatever. In our view at Goldie, my company that's working on an AI copilot for sales reps, we believe the AI should be a co-pilot in that setting, not the pilot. And the AI can help draft the email and I can approve it or make additional changes or whatnot. So there's an area where the AI can help. An area where the AI cannot help is in one of these uniquely human skills that I have as the salesperson, which is I heard things on that call which will allow me to sell more effectively to that prospect. And maybe there's some magical breakthrough in artificial intelligence in the next few years that allows an AI to do that just as well as I can do it, but I doubt it. I want to be listening for things that the buyer tells me that causes me to run a certain play, take a certain action, make a certain move that only I, as an experienced salesperson, am capable of determining. So hopefully that distinction makes sense, like these menial tasks or more menial tasks, but then these uniquely human skills that a lot of salespeople have. So I'll stop there. I'm sure there are other examples, but I'll stop there because that was already a long-winded answer. But hopefully that distinction makes sense.
It does, and I love how you define it as uniquely human skills and kind of thinking about those and that the fact that is going to be very hard and it's going to take a while for it to be replaced by AI. What about content creation? I mean, you very briefly touched on it, and the email recap is an example of that, where there is some form of content that is generated in the minds of a lot of, especially marketers, to some degree salespeople as well. It's like, hey, maybe now we could like crank up the content machine and just shoot it out. What are your thoughts on content creation and AI?
Yeah. Well, I personally think it's a problem. It's funny. It's sort of ironic that I'm the CEO and co-founder of an AI company, because I do have these views that aren't always positive about AI. But, my fear is that we're going to enter a phase where creating undifferentiated content at basically zero cost is totally possible. And there are going to be marketers and salespeople who embrace that 100%. And they may think they're doing it for the right reason. Like I hear a lot of people talk about, well, let's use AI to like crank out a bunch of SEO content, right? That just ranks ad nauseum on a Google search page, right? And maybe there's a reason to do that. I don't know. But or the sales example is we're just going to like crank out a bunch of these emails and send them to lots of different people, and we're going to make them kind of we're going to use AI to kind of personalize them and so forth. And so my fear is like there's just this content tidal wave that's coming. And what's going to happen, if you think about the implications of that, is in the aggregate, that's actually going to turn buyers off, right? Like buyers are already confused and annoyed by all of the emails and all of the content, right? And imagine we 100x that, which seems perfectly plausible. What is the buyer going to do? They're just going to turn off. I mean, why wouldn't you? That's what I would do. Now, there is a solution to this problem, in my opinion, which is these uniquely human skills. So marketers and salespeople who have the ability to create truly differentiated content that's unique, opinionated, real, authentic, right? I believe that content will still stick out. And so in a sense, like, I don't know how to apply this content onslaught to the hype cycle, but I could imagine it might kind of look like that. Like we're going to create all this content. People are going to realize it doesn't really work. We're going to stop creating that content. And people with these uniquely human skills of being able to create genuine, authentic content are really going to stand out. And so will the brands that support that content. That's my hope. And I hope that along the way, while we're going through this period where there's this massive onslaught of content, like the people who are really good at creating unique, authentic content, they keep doing it. They don't lose that skill. I don't think that will happen, but that's another fear that I have here. So yeah, I think content we're in for some real changes, but we end up in kind of the same place we are today, right? Which is if you're good at creating content, you stand out.
I love that. And we're currently doing hiring, and and we have these CVs and kind of application letters that come in, and I'm going through these, and it's exactly what you say. You talked about buyers would be turned off. Some of them I read, and I'm like, it is customized, but it flows too smoothly, and I'm not completely sure if this is written by a person or it's an AI. And sometimes you could just tell some of the I don't know. Maybe I've played around with ChatGPT too much that some things I can pick up. I'm like, I don't know if this was really written, and then we had to incorporate. You got to shoot a 2-minute video and send it through. As part of the process, and then there are discrepancies, and some people are like, "Wow, that CV looked really good," but the video really doesn't stack up.
That's a great idea. I was just about to say, someone is going to invent or come up with some authenticity, originality test, and that sounds like a good step in that direction. When it comes to content, I'm a big believer in original thoughts. And that is one thing GPT and the other LLMs aren't good at. They're just not good at it yet. They are good at sort of repackaging existing content that they've been trained on. But like you can see on places like LinkedIn and Twitter and Substack, like people who have really original thinking, they really stand out already.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had this conversation before where you talked about the fact that the authentic voice is going to become even more valuable.
Yep, that's a good way to put it. That's right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are your words from our previous conversation.
No wonder I agree with it. Yeah. And there are probably some interesting questions that sort of flow out of that statement, which is like, well, who's the authentic voice then, right? Is it founders? Is it CEOs? Is it marketers? Is it salespeople? Is it product people? It's probably all of the above. And how do you get people and enable people to have those authentic voices? Like I think the best companies will be really, really good at that in the future. Like we're going to enable our employees to share these authentic, genuine, original thoughts about the market, our customers, the product, the business, the brand, et cetera. And I think certain companies are already good at that, right? Like, if we take one in the tech industry, right? Like Apple is certainly good at that, right? Now, in the past, Apple has always had one person who, Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, right? There was one person. Nike's another company that comes to mind that does a good job of that. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think companies should be really thinking about like, how do you empower those authentic voices inside of the business?
What do you think is the best way or the best approach to identifying these could be areas, workflows, processes that AI can help? Because you provided one example, which I think is a great example, and we know all salespeople are gonna be very, very open to someone taking care of the CRM hygiene for them.
Yeah.
What do you think is, because I think one of the biggest challenges that people have is like, everybody keeps talking about AI. Everyone keeps talking about ChatGPT and LLM and so on and so forth. But how the hell do I use it? Like, where do I put it to use? And I'm having difficulty like figuring that out. What do you think? And that could be sales, that could be marketing. What do you think is the best approach of figuring out where I could kind of incorporate that it's not noise and it's actually going to give value today? What do you think is the best approach to kind of figuring that out for people in the B2B space?
Well, I think in both marketing and sales, one place to start is by simply mapping. By simply mapping the process or workflows that you actively engage in as a marketing or sales organization. And then against those processes or workflows, trying to identify points where AI could deliver an efficiency gain, right? And I think of that as like save time. So that example we talked about earlier, where the AI is helping the sales rep after a sales call, some of that's like update the CRM. That's an efficiency gain, right? Like save time. So try to identify points where you can get an efficiency gain in a process or a workflow. The second place you can go look is try and identify points in that process or workflow where you can get an effectiveness gain, which is we actually make the marketer or the salesperson more effective. And so you may think the AI helping me write the post-meeting follow-up recap email saved the rep time. Probably did. But hopefully the AI actually wrote a really good email too. Again, the draft. The rep will look at it and edit it. But hopefully that allows the final product to be a better email. And that actually increases the conversion rate you have with that prospect as a result of that. So I think of efficiency and effectiveness as two different things, and sort of understanding what the points are in different workflows and processes where you can eke out an efficiency gain or deliver an effectiveness gain. Like identify those points and then figure out, are there AI tools or products or whatever that can help with those different things, like updating the CRM or writing an email or reminding me that I've got this stalled opportunity where there's been no activity for the last 60 days and an AI Copilot reminds me of that and says, hey, Scott, let's send an email to these contacts that are in the CRM, right? Like there are all kinds of examples like that exist in a typical marketing and sales organization. There's probably a third area you can look at as well, which is like something is so complicated that it's really hard for a human to like get it done. Like I heard someone give an example this morning, like a lot of marketers still struggle to like set up campaigns in Marketo, for example. I don't know if that's true or not. That was this person's opinion. You might think, well, that's an area where if I could get the AI to like create campaigns for me in Marketo or help me create campaigns in Marketo, that would be great. That actually sounds terrific. I just don't believe AIs are there yet, right? Like we're just not quite there yet. So look for those efficiency gains, look for those effectiveness gains, and at some point in the future, look for those areas where humans are it's just hard. And so humans struggle with it and maybe an AI can help. But we're not there on number 3 yet, I don't think.
Okay. Last question I want to ask before diving into some rapid fire questions is
Okay.
other than Goldie, which I'm sure the team at Goldie are using and kind of implementing, are there AI tools that you've incorporated, you're using, the team is using? Is anything that you could share with the audience?
I wish the answer was yes. Certainly our product team uses a variety of different AI tools on the product development side. On the go-to-market side, no, not really. I mean, our go-to-market operation we're an early stage business, primarily focused on product development right now with a handful of what we call charter customers. And one of the approaches that we've taken as an early stage business, going back to the authenticity idea, is we really don't depend upon AI for any of our go-to-market efforts whatsoever. So, when you see a piece of content from us, when you get an email from us, that's something that literally I wrote. I'm the only person in the go-to-market organization right now. So maybe this is a good note that I should go look at some of these tools and take them more seriously. But no, we're not. And that's not a knock on any of the AI tools that are out there. It's more a reflection of where we are as a business and the fact that like we're doing founder-led go-to-market, marketing and sales. And we believe that like authenticity is a big part of that. Like I'll give you someone asked me the other day, do you use recorded videos in your outreach efforts? And I said, no, that would just feel really weird to me as a CEO and co-founder reaching out to a prospect with a recorded video. I feel like I need to send a personalized email with a hyper-personalized message and value proposition. I need to be the person on the first call, right? Like that's just where we are as a business.
I love it. And I think that is such a great lesson, considering, it's speaking to yourself. It's not like someone you're just starting your first company. I'll definitely encourage everyone to look Scott's background. Scott has sold companies to Gartners and started multiple companies, successful organizations, and exited them. So, and I think that is such an important lesson to take away, where a lot of people are like, hey, how do I kind of short circuit this? How do I move fast here and try to scale this? And it's important not to do that, especially in the early stages, and to maintain that authenticity of the brand.
Absolutely. People throw around this term, founder-led sales all the time, and it just kind of comes across as like this throwaway term that everybody understands. It's actually real work. There's real skill there. If anybody ever wants to talk about it, let me know. I've been running that playbook across 3 different startups now to pretty good success. And it really comes down to just like one-to-one, personal, authentic, original, like people want to hear from founders. Why not take advantage of that?
You have started to roll out your ABM strategy, but you're starting to hit some roadblocks. You're finding everything extremely time-consuming and complicated. The technology landscape is baffling. Deployment support in your organization is non-existent. And to top things off, the sales team has no interest in participating. You know ABM can work for your business, but you're in desperate need of a push in the right direction. Chat to the APAC ABM experts at Xgrowth for a free consultation to help get you on the right track. For more information, check out xgrowth.com.au. That's xgrowth.com.au and get back on track today.
Scott, let's do some rapid fire questions before we wrap up.
All right, I'm excited.
First question I got is, what is a resource? This could be a book, a blog, a podcast, whatever it is, that has had a profound impact on the way you work or live.
Okay, so I'll give you two examples. One example is like someone who I think a lot of people will have heard of. Maybe they read a lot of his content, and that's Paul Graham, who's formerly of Y Combinator. He was basically the founder of Y Combinator, which is remarkable in and of itself. But what's remarkable about Paul, and as well as a lot of the YC folks, is the clarity of thinking that they have around building early stage companies. It's really remarkable. I rarely read, and they do these kind of long form. Paul does these like long form posts that can take a while to get through, but they're worth it every time. I don't think I've ever read one of those posts and thought, oh, that was off base or not applicable. It's just like a total gold mine. So I think very highly of Paul and his writing. He's a very clear writer too. More generally, there's an economist in the United States here. His name's Tyler Cowen, and that's spelled Cowen. And he's just one of these like big thinkers who thinks across like a variety of different disciplines, the economy, travel, business, philosophy, literature. Like he's unbelievable. And what I learned from him is you don't really learn anything about startups or sales and marketing. You learn nothing about sales and marketing from him, but you learn about like curiosity, how humans work, how the human mind works, what's happening in the world. And I think that's really important for entrepreneurs. So those are two people I like. I read everything that they write. So.
Wow, everything that's a big statement. Paul Graham, of course, massive fan, and definitely going to check out Tyler Cowen as well. Second question.
By the way, they just did a podcast together. So if you want to.
Oh wow! Really?
Yeah.
Okay. This is definitely going on the list now.
Cool.
Okay. Second question. If you could give one advice to people in the B2B space, now it could be marketers or salespeople, what would that be?
I would say focus on. How do I put this? Focus makes it sound so clinical. It's actually different than that. I would say spend as much time meeting with people in your market as you possibly can. And we're so obsessed with all these advanced metrics and like technology and OKRs and all this stuff now. And I really believe that the key to being a good salesperson or a good marketer for that matter is to meet with as many people in, let's call it your target market. It doesn't have to literally be that, but to meet with as many people in your target market as possible and just meet them. And you don't even have to try and sell them anything. You can just just meet them, and good things happen. Like my last business was this company called TOPO, as you mentioned, acquired by Gartner. The key to that business was my co-founder, Craig Rosenberg, and we had this weekly meeting objective where we each had to meet with 5 people in the market every week. So we met with 10 people every week, no matter what. Some of those people became customers. Some of those people became customers 2 years later. Some of those people referred us to future customers. Some of those people became employees. Some of those people referred us to people who became employees. Like I can think of, across the hundreds of different meetings we had in those first few years, I can think of 2 or 3 meetings that were a waste of time. Like every meeting was a good meeting, like something came of it. So I guess some people would just call that networking. I think of it as no, have a weekly meeting target and go get the meetings and good things will happen.
That is so good. And I've heard this story, and Craig's talked
Did you
to
hear it
that.
from Craig?
I have. And he's like, look, man, I met with engineers and I met with, they weren't really marketing or sales sometimes. And I thought it was just such a fascinating, simple, but fascinating and effective concept. So thank you for bringing that up again. Third question is, and maybe this is not different, but the third question is, who are some of the influencers and thought leaders that you follow in your space? And we talked about Paul Graham and Tyler Cohen. Does anyone else come to mind?
Yeah, well, we could probably narrow it down to say go to market folks. Like Paul and Tyler are not necessarily go to market specific. So, when I think of go to market people that I really admire and respect, I certainly think of Craig, who was my co-founder. I mean, he is like the beautiful mind of B2B sales and marketing, I think. And I got to sit next to him for 15 years during my career and watch him work and just watch how brilliant he is in that regard. And so Craig, he used to be known as the funnelholic. I don't know if he's still known as that, but he had this blog and these accounts called the funnel, Twitter accounts and so forth called the funnelholic. I think he does really excellent work in terms of how he thinks about practical B2B sales and marketing. Someone that I've only recently started to follow is Sam Jacobs at Pavilion. I think he does he's the founder and CEO of Pavilion. I find his thinking on startups and sales and marketing to be, he likes to tell these personal stories. I think he primarily uses LinkedIn. He likes to tell these personal stories about things that he's experienced in his career. They really resonate with me because he doesn't sugarcoat it. It becomes really clear how hard this stuff is, and it is hard, right? And there's always this super clear thought that you get to at the end with his posts and his thinking. So that's another person that I think very highly of.
Really appreciate that. Both of those. Craig Rosenberg, for anyone who's listening, we've had Craig multiple times on the podcast. Definitely check him out. Last thing is, what is something that excites you about B2B today?
That's actually a tough question.
Oh, I thought it would be very, very straightforward, but okay, let's do this.
No. Let's see if I can answer this question. So, going back to that thought around these uniquely human skills, I feel like we kind of went through, call it a 12-year period where we automated the heck out of everything. We threw a bunch of data at marketing and sales. We put in these governance frameworks that, govern everything. We adopted new methodology. We just threw the book at sales and marketing. We threw everything we had at sales and marketing. And we did that in the name of trying to improve productivity, I think, right? And it's not clear to me that it worked, right? In fact, I think you could make the argument that it didn't work, right? If I look on the sales side of B2B, I think you can make an argument that salespeople are less productive, in spite of the fact we threw everything we had at them in the name of improving productivity. And so one of the things that I get excited about is I actually believe that we're at this interesting inflection point in B2B sales and marketing where we did all that. And maybe whether it worked or not isn't really relevant anymore. It's sort of that's water under the bridge. We did all that. We learned a lot in doing that. And now we're at this point where maybe we can take a step back and say, what are the things that really, really matter in B2B sales and marketing? And with AI arriving, can we focus on those things that really matter? And a lot of this stuff that's distracted us for the last 12 or so years, we're just going to give that to these co-pilots, assistants, tools, whatever, right? And my hope is we would enter a world where creativity matters. Again, sorry, I'm like a broken, authenticity, originality. These are the things that get rewarded in B2B sales and marketing. And these are the things that our prospects respond to, our customers respond to. And as a result of that, there's kind of like this creativity boom in the world of B2B sales and marketing. Maybe that's pie in the sky, who knows, but that would be my hope, that we enter a world where uniquely human skills, creativity, original thought really booms and is rewarded. That's something I could get excited about.
Scott, this has been an awesome conversation. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've learned a lot. I've taken a lot of notes here. And there are a bunch of things I'm going to be following up. And I'm sure it's the same thing for the listeners. But just want to say again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, it's been great. I really enjoyed the conversation. So thank you, Shaheen. Great to be here.
Today's episode of Growth Colony was produced by Alexander Hipwell and Liza Maywald. It was edited by Dave Samito with additional editing by Liza Maywald and music arrangement by Alexander and Liza. Special thanks to Tina Wabe. We couldn't make the show without you. Growth Colony is hosted by Shaheen Hoda, Director of Growth at Xgrowth. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Do you think you'd be a great guest or just keen for a chat? Send through an email at podcast@xgrowth.com.au. That's podcast@xgrowth.com.au. That's all for now. We'll catch you next week, right here on Growth Colony.